Hey everyone, Vigano Miwen here, and that means Talking Feather Woman, and I am also known as Rollie Allaire, and I am going to share with you the pillars of wellness. So there are 5 pillars that I have been following, that I've been using, and so I'm going to share a little bit about what these 5 pillars are, and just to give a little bit of insight that way. So I'm actually following notes. So for those of you who know me well, know that I don't do overly well with notes, but I am going to try and stay focused on what it is that I want to be able to share with you guys today. So what we're going to be doing is diving in deeper into each one of the pillars, and we're going to explore practical ways to integrate them into our daily lives. So by the end of the session, you're going to be able to understand the 5 pillars of wellness and actionable tips to enhance your overall well-being. So like that is my goal for being able to work with you guys today. So the first pillar, I'm going to go through and share what all 5 pillars are first. So the first pillar is thriving in life. The second pillar is gaining insight. The third pillar is exploring emotional depth. The 4th pillar is stepping into empowerment, and the 5th pillar is integration, so bringing it all together. And so this is, for those of you who have been with me for a while, we've been talking about Tide. And so the Tide program, the Tide membership, focuses on these 5 pillars. So everything that I've been working on, everything that I have been offering, all gives us the perspective into each one of these 5 pillars. So we're going to start with pillar number 1. And so pillar number 1 talks about thriving in life. So thriving in life is all about maintaining physical health through balanced nutrition, regular exercise, and adequate sleep. And so balanced nutrition means eating a variety of whole foods that nourish your body. And so for those of you who are like me, you may tend to eat more carnivore style as well. And so that balanced nutrition comes from both perspectives, right? So, but for most people are following the Canada's food guides. And so you're looking at whole foods. And so regular exercise keeps you active and energized. Adequate sleep ensures your body can recover and function optimally. And like that is super, super important for us to be able to do as well. So when you are talking about whole foods, so incorporating fruits and vegetables into your meals, so like that is something that is really important. And again, if you're following the carnivore diet like me, then things are a little bit different. So I do lazy carnivore, but so like I do still have some fruits and vegetables in my meals. Not really vegetables. I'm not much for vegetables, but aiming for at least 30 minutes of physical activity on most days, and creating a bedtime routine to improve your sleep quality. So those are all things that are really important for us to be able to maintain this particular pillar. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to invite you guys to tell me, what is your favorite healthy meal or exercise routine? And let me, so that we can inspire each other. So my favorite healthy meal, so again, going into meats, is that I eat, so steak is probably my favorite. And so for those of you who are not carnivore like me, so what are some of the healthy meals that you really enjoy being able to have? And exercise routine. So my exercise routines are not overly, they're not necessarily daily, but what I do is I try to walk at least twice a week. And so I've actually increased that to being 3 times a week. But my walks are not just 30 minutes. They are, so generally it's it's an hour. And then once on the weekend, I'm looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how far that I'm walking. So, and that's the increase that I've done, is increasing that one walk in the winter, on the weekend time. So next we move into pillar number 2. So number 2 is about being able to gain insight. And so this is really important for us to be able to kind of go into, and again, those of you who actually follow some of the things that I do. So I talk about mind, body, heart, and soul. And so like those are the four main pillars. And then that integration is that piece about you and how you actually bring it all together. So the first one was body, right? So thriving in life is all about body and getting into that whole, like, what does my body need in order to be healthy? So then when I go into pillar number 2 and we're talking about gaining insight, we're talking about the mind, right? So we're actually getting insights, we're getting ideas, we're getting thoughts, we're getting all those kinds of things. So one of the things that we do know is that thoughts trigger your emotions. So like when we're actually talking about gaining insight, it involves understanding yourself better and recognizing what triggers your emotions and reactions. So in order for us to be able to have an emotional response, we have an emotional response that, and those are triggered by our thoughts, right? So if we don't have a thought, then we're not going to have an emotional response. So like that is something that's really important for us to be able to figure out, is where do some of these triggers come from? What is it that brings up these emotions? So so self-awareness and mindfulness are crucial. And so I talk a lot about being able to like be more mindful, being more present, being in the now. And so that will actually help us understand our triggers, and you can actually manage your reactions more effectively. So I often use yoga nidra. So yoga nidra allows us to be able to be mindful in our body, but there's a lot of different techniques around mindfulness that over the next few weeks that I'm going to be talking more about that. So if you are on my email list, you started receiving emails yesterday, I believe. So yesterday or today, you started receiving emails about like welcoming you guys back to where it is. And so over the next 30 days, so long as you're okay with that, if not, you can cancel, you can unsubscribe. But over the next 30 days, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, is these 4 pillars. And we're going to be talking about 5 pillars technically. And we're going to be talking a lot about mindfulness, because that is something that when you can actually be present to what it is that's happening, makes a huge, huge difference. And so, so one of the things that I want you to do, and this is a very simple mindfulness exercise, is focus on your breathing for a few minutes every day. So every day, just stop and just focus on your breath. So what is going on breath-wise? Where are things going? And this just helps you. And then the other part of it is journaling. And so journaling can be an oral journaling. It's always best if you're doing pen to paper. But if you don't want to do pen to paper, because I do know that we have some people that are like, oh my God, journaling, I don't want to have to do journaling. So, but even if you are just orally journaling, whatever it is that you have going on, and just helping you reflect on your thoughts and feelings makes all the difference in the world. So, and so my question is that I want you to be able to share is, have you ever tried mindfulness or self-awareness practices? And if you have, I'd love for you to be able to share them with us. So if you are part of our transformational circle, and so we have a group on Telegram, and that is where all of us are in there. So it's called Timeless Transformation Circle. If you are on the email list, you will have received the link to be able to join the circle. And so this is on Telegram. And so I use Telegram for all of my groups. And this particular circle has a number of different topics in it. And so definitely invite you to share some of the things that are actually going on. If you are not in that group and you would like to be part of it, just shoot us a message and we can definitely get that message or get that link off to you. So just let us know that you're looking to be able to join our women's circle. And we would love to be able to have you in there. So pillar number 3 is exploring emotional depth. And so when we're talking about exploring the emotional depth, is about embracing and understanding our emotions, which allows us to be able to foster better relationships and personal growth. Now, the relationships are not just relationships with other people. We also need to work on having a relationship with ourselves. And so if we don't have that, we don't have anything. So like the most important relationship that you can actually foster is a relationship with yourself, which then allows you to be able to have a relationship with others. And so I've had over the years where people will say, oh yeah, well, it's just so much more important and I get so much more by giving to others, and then get really frustrated because people are taking advantage of me, or because people are not understanding my needs, or like those kinds of things. And so like my response is always, but you need to put yourself first. If you don't put yourself first, nobody else is going to. And it's super, super important. It is difficult, but it is super, super important. So our emotions guides are guides that help us understand our needs. So when we are feeling that frustration, if we are constantly doing things that have others not put our needs first, or not take into consideration how we're feeling, then those are some of the things that we need to be looking at a little differently. So accepting and exploring our emotions can lead to greater emotional stability and resilience. And so most of us are already resilient, but it's like, how do we deepen that resilience? Most of us have had experiences that allow us to be able to have some resilience in our lives. There's very few people that I've ever met that don't have some sort of resilience based on some of the life paths or life circumstances that have actually taken us through. So, so when we practice emotional regulation techniques like deep breathing or journaling, it allows us to be able to reflect on our emotions and what they're trying to tell you. So like if you're constantly seeing these emotions coming back over and over and over again, and whether that be sadness or happiness, we need to still be able to have those, we need to be able to reflect on, like, why am I feeling so happy? What is it that's going on right now that allows me, so that you can actually get more of that. Life is a roller coaster. So we have emotions that kind of come and go. So when we can actually practice emotional regulation techniques like deep breathing, then it allows us to be able to bring things forward. And so, as most of you know, anxiety is something that I have had for as long as I can remember. And the breathing techniques are what brings me back down to that calm state. I may not immediately go to it. I may like struggle a little bit depending on what kind of circumstance it is that's happening. But generally I can come back to like, okay, where's my breath? And how am I actually getting back into this space? And so it is just really important that we practice the deep breathing when something's not going on, so that it allows us to be able to bring back into that space. And so I always refer back to like, just focus on your breath, because it doesn't matter where you are, your breath is with you, right? So you don't need to have a yoga mat to do breathing. You just simply need to just be in that space and in that moment. So the next thing that I want to be able to invite you to do is think about a recent emotional experience. What did you learn from it? And share your reflections. And so one of the things that I can share is that most recently I had a situation where, and again, I know this stuff, I've been doing this stuff for a long time, but we still get in a moment, we still get in a funk where we are stuck and we forget some of the things that are going on. And so just remembering, so the circumstance was being able to have someone, we invited someone to be able to come and spend time with us. And rather than responding back and letting us know that, yeah, okay, well, things have changed and we're definitely not going to be able to come, I felt that huge disappointment of like, really? Seriously? And so my initial response was not the best. My initial response was like, I got into a pouty mood. And then when I just kind of thought back, and it's like, okay, well, like, who cares? Like, it's their loss, not mine. I'm able to do something different. But sometimes it's difficult for us to be able to kind of shift on that, right? So it is so easy for us to just be angry and upset and not do anything differently. And so my response was reaching out to someone else and saying, hey, did you want to come hang? And so that is how I was able to respond to that. And if that person wasn't available, then that person wasn't available. And I still just kind of did my own thing, but it allowed me to have that reminder of like, things aren't always going to be, perfect. And it's really important for us to be able to take a step back and figure out, okay, where am I going to go with this? How am I going to navigate that? And so really important for us to do. So pillar number 4 is stepping into empowerment. So within the email sequence that I've been talking about is that, so you'll actually have access to this on a replay in that email sequence. But I also have a cheat sheet. So we have an infographic that actually talks about like each one of these pillars and like those tips and tricks of what it is that's happening. And so really important for us to be able to have this to be able to come back to. So like I've got a few tools that are easy access tools that you have access to be able to bring in. So pillar number 4 is stepping into empowerment. And so like that is about being able to like, okay, how do I get things better? How do I actually take control of my life without controlling everything in my life? So there's a huge difference. We get to be in control of what it is that's happening and our fate, but at the same time, we're not controlling everything. So there's 2 different things. So when we actually look at, so sometimes when we just feel powerless, then what we end up doing is we end up being in total control, wanting to be in total control of everything that is going on, everything that is happening. And so it's just really important for us to take a look at what is it that's going on. So when we're stepping into empowerment, it's about taking control of our life and setting boundaries and building resilience, right? So like when our life feels like it's spiraling out of control, when we can actually set some boundaries and not just boundaries with other people. So boundaries with other people, but also boundaries for ourselves, right? So if we are feeling like we are overworked all the time and we never have time for work-life balance, then we need to take a look at that schedule. We need to take a look at where can I actually take more time for myself. I often hear women say, oh, I'm just so busy. I have to help with the kids. I have to go and do this and I have to go and do that. And I have all these responsibilities. But if we don't take time for ourselves, then we're not ever going to get out of that spiral. And it's so important for us to be able to do. It's not easy. And so I know that when my kids were little, one of the things that I would do is I would have a nice hot bath for 5 minutes. Even if it was just for 5 minutes, it didn't matter. It just changed my energy. It allowed me to be able to be grounded. And I was able to have this perspective or like this change of energy or dynamics that allowed me to be able to just feel grounded for a few minutes. And then I would just be able to go and do whatever else. Obviously, it's so much nicer when you can have more than 5 minutes, but at least 5 minutes. And then I have a friend of mine, her name's Maggie. And so we were in a workshop that she and I were co-facilitating with someone else. And one of the things that she reminded people, and I thought that so I've been stealing that ever since, is reminding people that no matter what, we need to pee. So when we're saying, oh, well, we don't have enough time for ourselves, we don't have it. So then take an extra few minutes when you're going to the washroom, right? Just sit there for an extra few minutes and take a few breaths. And so we all go through the day without there's nobody that goes without having to pee at some point through the day, right? So just so important for us to be able to remember that. So Lewis says meditation and relax. Absolutely. So when we're talking about empowerment, so empowerment involves making choices that align with our values and goals, setting boundaries to protect your own well-being. So we don't set boundaries to help somebody else. We set boundaries for ourselves. And so it's really important for us to be able to do that. And so, and by doing that, it allows us to be able to also develop some resilience on how to handle some challenges, right? So if we have some relaxation techniques, or if we have some ways of being able to stay calm, or if we have some ways of being able to express our emotions, then it allows us to be able to build up that resilience so that when something major is happening, it allows us to be able to say, okay, this is what I need to do. And so one of the things that, and that's something that's really, really important for us to be able to do. So the other thing is identifying what our values and our goal, like identifying our values and then setting our goals so that they can actually reflect on them. So if we don't know what our values are, and sometimes our values are imposed by others, and so sometimes we assume somebody else's values. And so we need to sometimes reevaluate our values. So are they really our values, or are they someone else's? Is first and foremost. And then the other part is that if they are our values, then how can we actually reinforce them? What is it that we can do to be able to bring that that piece back to where we are? So the other thing in terms of I just lost my train of thought. Give me a second. So when we actually practice saying no to things that don't serve our well-being, then it makes a huge difference in terms of our lives, right? So it is so hard to say no sometimes, right? So I know that when somebody says, hey, can you do something for me? If I'm saying yes, most of the time, there's very, very little time that I'm not okay with that decision. And if I'm not okay with that decision, if I've said yes to something that I should have said no to, then I need to take a look at, okay, why did I say yes? So now I'm resentful, I'm frustrated. Why did I say yes? But I've been doing this for a while, and practicing that whole part of saying no is really, really important. It's difficult, but start with saying no to people that you trust, that you know are not going to give you a really hard time with that. Building resilience by maintaining a positive outlook and seeking support from others. And so again, that is something else that's really important. We need to be surrounded by people who actually have our back, not people who are going to make things really difficult for us, right? So if we are surrounded by people who are going to take our things that we feel positive about and turn it into something negative, then those are not your peeps. And so like, just kind of move out of that, right? So like, don't get stuck in that. So what I want you to do next is I invite you to share in the group, what boundary have you set recently, or what goal are you working towards? Okay, so I invite you to share that in our group. So if you would like to do that, that would be awesome. Okay, so next we're going to go into pillar number 5, which is integration. It is like super hot in here. And so, yeah, so I've got like, we're still working on trying to find ways of making it cooler. We have like huge heat happening right now. And so anyway, so integration. So pillar number 5 is about integrating. So when we can actually integrate the 4 pillars and bringing it all to one. And so when we use the medicine wheel, for example, so the medicine wheel has 4 sections, right? So it has 4 sections, and you can actually take each one of these, because it's mind, body, heart, and soul, and you can actually put these inside the medicine wheel. But in the center of the medicine wheel is you. And so that integration is, how do you actually bring all 3 or all 4 of those things back into that one area, right? So it allows us to be able to create a holistic approach to wellness. So like, I know that one of the things that I would get really, really frustrated over was when I would be working for different agencies and different things, it would be like, oh, well, I can help somebody work on this, but I can't help them work on that because like that doesn't follow our mandate. So it's like, well, how do you disconnect from that piece and part of yourself? And it didn't create that holistic piece. And that was one of the reasons why it was really important for me to be able to take a look at, like, how do we actually incorporate this together? How do we bring these different points together so that everything works in balance, right? So, so just having that synergy of all 4 makes a huge, huge difference in terms of how to be able to bring things forward. So each pillar supports the other. So like, there's not one without the other. And balance is key to maintaining the overall well-being. So like, are you going to be 100% working on your physical? Hopefully, but maybe not. Maybe you're going to be focusing more on the spiritual aspect of what it is that's going on, and a little bit of, and it's going to be a little less of the physical, right? So, but for the most part, you're still finding ways of being able to do that. So one of the things that I suggest is creating a daily check-in routine to assess how balanced that you're feeling across all the pillars. So just having a, okay, so where are things at with my mind? Where are things at with, like, maybe I'm not getting a whole lot of sleep, so that my physical is affecting my mind, right? So like, if we don't get enough sleep, it's definitely going to impact our mind. It's going to impact our, and lack of sleep impacts our physical already, right? So sometimes it may even impact, lack of sleep will potentially impact your emotions. You might be more moody, you might be more tired, you might be more irritable, right? So like, all those different things is so important. So when you actually pay attention to what it is that's going on, and having those daily check-ins allows you to be able to figure out where does some of those things happen. And so I'm watching my dog on the camera, and so my husband is not watching the dog. The dog is trying to like counter surf. Anyway, okay, so and for those of you who are new to me, know that I just kind of are going to get to know that I just kind of go with whatever it is that's happening. So anyway, so what I want you to do is for this particular pillar is I want you to set a wellness intention for today, and I want you to share it in the comments. So let's support each other in each other's wellness journeys. And so that will make a huge difference in terms of how we are bringing those things forward. So, so now the next thing that we're going to do is like, we're going to recap. So let's recap what it is that we've talked about. So we've explored the 5 pillars of wellness. So thriving in life, gaining insight, exploring emotional depth, stepping into empowerment and integration. And so one of the things that I want you to remember is that these pillars work together to enhance your overall well-being. And it is so important for us to be able to do that. And so, so when we're actually working through things, and like I said, so over the next little while, and unless you're catching the replay like several months later, but like you may, so one of the things that we're going to be doing is in your, in our welcome sequence, we talk about all the different things. And so like, I invite you to come back and re-listen to this video. And so it'll be available to you at any point. And so I'm hoping that you found this valuable. I'm hoping that you can come back, that you're going to come back and revisit at any time. And one of the things that I am going to encourage you to do is join our Telegram group for deeper discussions. So we have a number of different topics within each one of them. And so, and then there's also in the email that you've received there's also a download for the comprehensive 5 pillars of holistic wellness guide, and so that we can continue this journey together. So we are not done. We are just taking things one step at a time. So hope this is good. Hope this has been helpful to you, and talking to all of you soon, and looking forward to getting to know you guys better inside the group. Talk to you later. Bye for now.